Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth appeared on CBS This Morning last week to discuss the next steps his company is taking to counter the backlash to Bud Light's partnership with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney.
But when the Bud Light boss specifically was asked if the move was a mistake or if he'd do it again, Whitworth wouldn't provide a direct answer. Let's watch.
Knowing what you know now, if you could go back, would you send this can to this one person again?
There's a big social conversation taking place right now, and big brands are right in the middle of it. And it's not just our industry or Bud Light. It's happening in retail. It's happening in fast food. And so for us, what we need to understand is, deeply understand and appreciate, is the consumer and what they want, what they care about, and what they expect from big brands.
Oof, this comes as the top Anheuser-Busch marketing executives responsible for the Mulvaney partnership are no longer employed, according to the Daily Caller.
So that was a non-answer, if ever I've not heard one.
It's the only wrong answer,
yes,
to be honest, that is going to satisfy absolutely no one. You know you're going on a liberal show, a liberal morning show, where, as the host put to him, people who are left-leaning, people who are watching that show want you to say, of course, we stand by the choice to have anybody in America drink our beer. Like, there's a million audiences in America. If someone wants to boycott us, they could boycott us for any number of things that we could potentially do. And if we start down this path, we will be completely hamstrung by whatever political movement decides it wants to take issue with a given part of the society. We're not political. We send our cans to everyone and we make a good product, and that's that. Or alternatively, do the thing where you throw trans people under the bus, say, "You yucky, gross, I'll never do that again," and live with the consequences of what that means for a liberal leading audience. Those are your options.
He did not do either thing. Or just don't do the interview.
Don't do the interview.
Don't do the interview.
Nobody asked for this.
Nobody, just corporate platitudes. Look, if clearly they have to regret what they've done here, because it very much hurt the brand. It sounds like they've actually fired the people who were in charge of greenlighting it, so they understand this was a disaster. If you don't want to talk about it, don't talk about it. But if you want to win back, if you want to win back conservatives, that was not going to do it. And also, to your point, if you wanted to reassure trans people or social progressives, I don't think that was going to be sufficient either.
Look, nobody knew who Brendan Whitworth was. Nobody was clamoring for Brendan Whitworth to give a comment. Now I know who Brendan Whitworth is, and I don't think that much of him.
And I'm mad at him.
Because he, for some reason, felt like his face needed to be on morning television. Now, look.
It's about ethics in interviews journalism. That's why I'm boycotting Bud Light.
Right. I mean, look. Bud Light, I could go down the list of celebrities and say who's got the best favorables in America. And I bet you I could find someone who's a right-leaning person who has favorables that are so high that within a year I could get everyone to forget that Bud Light is associated with Dylan Mulvaney and is instead associated with Brett Favre or whoever the heck it is.
Rob Schneider. Fresh
Right.
off the RFK endorsement.
Right. I mean, like, that has to be the line. Like, what do you want from us as a company? You know, is Dylan Mulvaney a criminal? Has she done something objectively bad that it would be ill-advised to let her drink a beer on camera? Like that, I mean, I just really want us to go back to what the problem is here. That there's an influencer who has an audience because she's transitioning. If you don't want your kid to transition, if you don't like transitioning, if you don't think that being transgender is a real or legitimate phenomenon, your options are to take your phone away from your kid, tell your kid that transitioning is bad and that trans people are evil, and run your household the way you want. Do I approve of that? No, but I'm not in the business of telling other people how to run their household. And I'm also not in the business of telling Bud Light what they should do, or that they should not be appealing to everybody in the world and everybody. I have disagreed with Bud Light ads in the past. I don't think many of them are particularly progressive or feminist or give what I think young girls should have in terms of good body image. But I don't make those kinds of decisions about who the brand should be appealing to, because I think it's capitalism and brands are going to broadly appeal to everyone they can appeal to. I mean, that's just that.
Sure. Again, personally, I don't care, but to represent what a socially conservative perspective would be, and what they would say is that, right, they don't recognize trans people as a category. They don't want this affirmed or in the atmosphere. I think they find it actually offensive what Dylan Mulvaney in particular has done in terms of her performance as a girl. That's what they would say, is that it's a performance as a girl. It's insulting to women. I do, in fact, know women who feel that way about it, who aren't even particularly socially conservative, and thus
Robby,
Bud Light had to pay a consequence.
I know women who think a lot of things. I know women who are not pro-choice. I know women who, don't think that Star Trek is a great show. I mean, I know women who I disagree with for a lot of different reasons. What are we really saying here? And is this not like Bud Light has to live with the backlash? Mm-hmm. So they can make the choice to not try to market their product to certain communities because they think that one community in particular is powerful enough to have a negative effect on their product. And they have to make that decision. That's a financial decision, and I'm not invested in the profits of a large American corporation. But from a political perspective and a social perspective of what their conservatives are doing, it seems like this is obviously an exercise in exactly the kind of cancel culture that they railed against mm-hmm. for years and years and years. And it starts to become a little unintelligible about what the goals are here. If you hate trans people, it's a free country. You can hate trans people. Trying to make random corporations also align with that message is exactly the kind of propagandistic pressure that they allege is happening in schools and with liberal institutions and with Will and Grace and all of these kinds of things. So if everyone just wants to get in the culture wars games, admit it, you're in the culture wars games, you want to try to use boycotts and financial incentives to get people to agree with your message of hating trans people.
I think the right and I think Republicans are saying your terms are acceptable. That's exactly what we're
That's
doing.
Fine. Destroy Bud Light. Good luck. I think that people who don't hate trans people aren't going to start hating trans people. So your agenda is really to kill a historically right-leaning conservative bastion of a company like Bud Light, who's given a lot to Republican candidates. If they want to take Bud Light down, I don't think a single person's going to feel differently about trans people, but it will hurt Bud Light. So it seems like a win-win for people on the left, to be honest.
Well, the Daily Wire perspective, that's, Matt Walsh, et cetera, really is who called for this. I watched some of his videos. He seems to say, no, we must force the companies that already had some loyalty to us or some support for Republican causes, if even they think that they can insult us with impunity, they must be disabused of that notion. So it was specifically important to target a Bud Light. Again, I think that's Matt Walsh's perspective.
If conservatives want to go after conservative organizations and hurt their bottom line,
well, just in the same way you want to make Democrats be more actually progressive,
right? Well, right? Those are politicians that I want politically to affect policy that benefits communities that I am invested in, and working class people, broadly speaking.
And Republicans care about purging wokeness, or whatever you want to call it. And they consider this an example of that.
They're making an effort to change culture. I have a very libertarian view of this. I think that people should be able to live their lives the way they want. But if people want to start using political and financial means to try to keep people from being able to have their privacy rights and do what they want in their own households, God bless if that's what you want your party to be associated with. I mean, Ron DeSantis is literally running his entire campaign attacking businesses like Disney in his district on the basis of these cultural issues, saying that wokeness is literally the linchpin of his entire campaign and political effort to be the president of the United States of America. Who has started got rid of the board of an entire college and replaced it with people who are ideologically aligned with him.
I'm just telling you what
banning books,
hearing from my Republican friends. We at Reason Magazine, where I'm also employed, we ran an op-ed by Mike Pence a few days ago, criticizing explicitly DeSantis for abandoning the traditionally Republican cause of leaving businesses alone.
Yeah, I think it's weird that the Democratic Party is doing this authoritarian, we're the cops now, law and order push. I think it's weird that Republicans want to lean into authoritarianism from the culture wars. I'm very afraid of what it means for the American people, who should not be under an authoritarian thumb from either corporate party. And I think that this weird battle that is ultimately so far removed from the material interests of average Americans is why there's so much interest in both third-party candidates and independent candidacies like RFK Jr.'s, Cornel West, and Marianne Williamson's.
We will have more Rising right after this.